plan to call 8 witnesses in this week's open hearings. But will the president make it 9? Or can his legal team put a shock collar on him? Joining me now, Indiana Republican Senator and Senate Budget Committee member Mike Braun. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be on.
So this is very interesting. And I know any lawyer in their right mind would advise the president to not testify in these proceedings, but I think there's absolutely no downside for the president. I think that he gets to make mincemeat of Adam Schiff and some of the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee. He will get very favorable questions from Republicans who want to make the ultimate point. And more importantly, he will send a message to his reporters that he is not afraid to back down and he fully believes in his innocence. And then if he is guilty, then he can go ahead and resign and Nikki Haley can be president. What do you think?
It's a beautiful thing about President Trump. When he makes a tweet like that, which is loaded with a lot of stuff, who knows? He may go on. And I think that's what's endeared him to the public in general, the people that voted for him. I mean, he clearly is quite confident that whether he'd come on or not, that there's no case against him. And of course, he's going to push the point just like he did in the tweet. And nothing else is getting done. This goes way back to when he was elected in the first place, and they've been relitigating the election ever since November 16. So he would do well either way. And I
agree. I think if there's a bombshell and he lies and they catch him, then there you go, case closed. But if he defends himself appropriately and his comportment reflects his belief that he is totally innocent, I think that would not only put this baby to bed, but it would shift momentum for him and for the country. And I think there is something to the idea that Congress needs to get back to work. Having said that, there is talk of a strategy within the Senate, if it gets to that point, to kind of slow things down and really, take their time during the trial, which would take many of those critical Democrat presidential contenders off the campaign trail for quite some time. What do you think of that?
Well, I think if it does come to the Senate, and I think there's some doubt about that because the case hit a ceiling that they've been trying to make when the Mueller report flopped, and then this was their next best chance. It kind of peaked in the public 2 to 3 weeks ago. And when they can't really get past the general approval ratings that we've seen since the president has been there, they've got to be nervous about what do they do. Push it even to an article of impeachment vote? Or when I was listening to Nancy Pelosi on Face the Nation, it looked like she was hedging her bets whether there'll even be a vote. And I think that's because they've been trying to focus group themselves into popular support for this whole impeachment inquiry, and it's just not getting there.
So clearly, based on what some Republicans have said since last week, and I don't see this changing, they don't have the votes to remove the president from office at this point. So how does Nancy Pelosi save face if, in fact, it doesn't come up for a vote? How do they do that?
That's got her in a real pickle because besides that, she's sitting on the USMCA that everyone wants to see across the finish line, playing political footsie with it. I think they've done a few things that they are now between a rock and a hard place. And whether they go forward or whether they back off, I think that it's already hurt them when it comes to the big vote in November of 2020. And I think they've lost ground when they decided to have this second phase of trying to impeach the president. And they're on the provenance, the origin of all this occurring is clear that they were after him, from day one to try to delegitimize the election.
And anytime something comes up in terms of immigration, it only reminds voters that Democrats can't multitask, and they are not multitasking, and they are not solving some of these big crises that we still have at home. Hopefully you will use your influence in the Senate and in both chambers to calm things down and move things forward, cut spending, increase freedom. What do you think about that?
I think that's what the American public is interested in. I know it would be. He is as strong as he was back in 2016 when he came in as a disruptor, wanting to get rid of business as usual. Somebody like me, as a Main Street entrepreneur, that's what I was interested in doing. When
All
it
right.
comes to lowering health care costs, infrastructure, all the things people are really interested in,
Free
I think
market,
Pelosi,
free market.
you got it.
All right. Well, Senator Braun, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Good to be on.
Always good.